Welcome everyone to our expert session. My name is Bodo Sieber, the Tagmarshal CEO, and I'm delighted to have you join us. And this session is co-hosted by the PGA Middle Atlantic section. Their team was going to be on with us to introduce our partnership and ourselves, but unfortunately they ran into some technical issues that they're busy resolving. But for those of you from the section or from the area, you can obviously get your PDR credits. All you have to do is post your ID into the chat a bit later. But let's take it away. Our session title is How Technology is Helping Willow Springs to Make More Money While Saving Labor Hours. Very to the point. That's the way we like it. And I'm delighted to welcome Ben Wilson, the General Manager from Willow Springs Golf Course. Ben, how are you?
I'm well. How are you, Bodo?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. And also excited to have Joey Walters, our GM, who's heading up our Atlanta offices. Joey, how are you?
Doing great, Bodo. Thank you.
Nowhere near Atlanta. Where are you today?
I am in Starbuck, Manitoba, Canada. Away from Atlanta.
Snow up there. Well, gents, thanks so much for making some time. So yeah, what we'd like to do is give Ben an opportunity to introduce Willow Springs, and Ben, also tell us a bit how you ended up there. I really love the story, and then obviously the golf passion is shining through, and what you've brought to the team there speaks for itself. But Ben, take it away.
Yeah, so Willow Springs, as you can see on the map, we're located just off I-70, just west of Baltimore. We're a par 62 course, 10 par 3s, 8 par 4s, shorter course. That our goal is to get people, in and out for as quick a round as possible while enjoying it. As far as how I got into the business, I actually came from a different industry. So I came from the automotive repair industry. A friend of mine, Eric, and I, he started a business doing youth golf and tennis instruction and needed a place to do it. So we came across Willow Springs, and the next thing you knew, we were kind of running things. I didn't come from a golf background. I came from just a business background. This is the third business that I've either owned or operated. And, I just run things based on numbers, not so much, the traditional way of doing things. And we've done some pretty neat things that are working out really well. So
fantastic. And there's also one number that I think you need to share, and that's your handicap, because it's not shabby.
Yeah, I'm in somewhere just under a 3 handicap on the gin right now. So
okay, so your way around the golf course. Joey, I know that you've spent quite a bit of time up with Ben and the team at Willow Springs. What's the course like? What's the team like? What's the Joey rating?
Yeah, it's this is a course I wish I had in my hometown. I would obviously be playing it all the time. The greens are in great shape, the fairways are in great shape, the tee boxes are in great shape, and it's it's quite a value for what you get out there. And the team is fantastic. Ben's assembled a really solid staff out there. He's got Eric there, obviously, and Scott, the head pro there. They've got a really good staff, and they do a good job of catering to their clientele there.
So that's why you were so happy up there, Joey.
That, and they fed me. So
I know, that's what I mean. They're brilliant. No, that's great to hear. And okay, so one thing you got to tell us, what sort of rounds do you guys do in a season? Obviously, alongside everyone else, you would have seen a bit of an upswing, and also how your rounds priced. It's always good to get a gauge on that.
Yep. So, we're on track, especially next year, to probably do roughly 35,000 rounds. We average weekend rate with a cart is right around $50, and a weekday rate is closer to the mid 40s for with a cart. So.
Okay, great. And you did mention that the course is a bit shorter, which also shows itself in the run time of it. Like people really fly through it, which I think is a major selling point. And I'm sure that you've made a bit of a name for yourself as a really quick, fun course to play in the area. Where do you get most of your people from? Do people come through from Baltimore side, or is it mostly the local community?
Most of our players are local. We get people from Howard, Carroll, Baltimore County mainly. But we have had people travel that are visiting. We get some people that are here for business that just want to play a quick round that happen to be in the area. So we get a variety, but most of our golfers are local repeat customers.
Okay, got you. And just one last question. How big is your total staffing contingent at the course?
So, when we took over, that's one of the things that we worked on. We had a lot of, part-time type people that would work, 3 hours here, 3 hours there. So Eric and I have really done our best to get a more, full-time kind of staff. So between the grounds crew and our pro shop staff, we went from where we used to have somewhere in the mid 40s employee wise to we're now down towards the mid 20s now. So.
Okay, wow, that's quite an adjustment, and you're getting through more golf with fewer people, which is obviously speaks to some of the structures you put in place. Okay, let's jump one in. Obviously, we'd like to introduce ourselves as well with Tagmarshal. Joey, do you want to give us a quick introduction here, and I'll fill in the gaps if there are any.
Yeah. I'm Joey Walters, as Bodo said. I'm the general manager out of Atlanta. I cover most of the U.S. and Canada, going around, and we make sure we are taking care of our clients. Obviously, I've got a great staff in Atlanta that runs the Atlanta office while I'm out, and have the ability to travel and go and see our clients and do handshakes and check-ins. My background is I come from the tech industry. I spent 10 years running a facility that did logistics for Google, and then switched over and took over the manufacturing and became the largest manufacturer of servers in the United States during that period. So I've always had a love for tech, and my love for tech and my love for golf. Obviously, Tagmarshal has been a perfect fit for me, and I love the company, and it gives me the best of both worlds.
Thanks, Joey. I know that you've obviously had the tough job of visiting some of these amazing golf courses we play with, and as much as you love Willow Springs, there's also some hot contenders. What is your favorite course to play?
It's always been Kiowa for me, but I've had some close second, thirds, and fourths now. My buddy Scott out at Gold Canyon, the Dinosaur Mountain course there has become one of my favorites. If you guys ever if you get a chance and you're out in Arizona in the Phoenix area, you got to stop in and check it out. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Amazing. Thanks, Joey. So as you can see, we are very blessed to work with some of the very best courses out there. Obviously in the private space, there's Valhalla hosting the PGA Champs next year, Baltusrol, Hazeltine hosting the Ryder Cups. Really, really good setups. And then in the Daily Fish Life Resort space, again, next year we have Pinus hosting the US Open. And so we're really spoiled for choice, and we're certainly not going to miss any of these big events. There's Pebble Beach, Bandon Dunes, where everyone wants to play. And the nice thing for us is that all the way across Scotland, Ireland, some of the very best facilities using our program. But what we really love is that we get to work with most of our clubs are really just the good course down the road, whether it's a private club or a club like Ben's, and they're all solving the same problems effectively, right? So what's great for us, we get to learn from these really advanced operations, and then put those learnings back into our system and into a strategy, and then share it with the rest of the industry, so that everyone can uplift their operations. We're also excited to now work with the DP World Tour that used to be called European Tour for, I think, the 4th year going, and they use our programs a lot, and just really looking to add value where we can, and really build long-term partnerships. So for us, it's always the pinnacle of, are we doing good with a partner? If somebody says, I'll come on and I'll share my story like Ben is doing today. Ben, thank you so much for your time and for saying yes. And we're excited to learn a bit more about what makes you guys tick. And on that note, you obviously love your golf, and also travel here or there, play golf, and you've played for a long time, and you've now experienced the business of golf. What do you say are the key golfer experience factors if you had to pick? Out of that list of 7 here, there's course design, course conditioning, clubhouse amenities, pace and flow of play, playing partners in my group, accessibility, tee times availability, and lastly, cost and value. So if you had to pick 3, what would they be for you?
So the 3 that are the most important for us in order are 2, 4, and 7. Course conditioning, I think, is always going to come to the top no matter where you play. But, for us, it's the pace and flow too. I mean, that's really our selling point here. We're competing with full-size courses up the road that have more to offer than we do. And our biggest thing is, we can get you in and out of a round an hour plus quicker than the course up the road does. And that's a big selling point for a lot of people. So, and we just try to give them a good value too. So.
Yeah, I think you got your priorities right here, and the research supports you. Let me just jump here. So that the top rated factor according to players is conditioning. 82% of players that's saying that's key to their experience. And then 74% of players say pace, flow, and time it takes to play is key. And the only thing in between is who's in my group, like who are the people in my playing group. So both, as you're saying, are ranking super high. And then further to that, 84% of operators consider pace a key to the play experience and want to pay attention to it. There's one thing that you mentioned now, is that it is a competitive advantage for you, but the research also shows that especially under 40s, if you add this up, 23% are willing to pay 25% more, and 36% are willing to pay 20% more. So that is a total of 59% who are willing to pay 20% or more for a quicker, significantly quick round of golf with no holdups. So if anything, that is another reason, right? Because those are the players we want to attract, because they'll be with us for many years. We do it right, and they're happy to pay a bit more. Have you considered, in terms of your pricing, that might be a variable? And I believe that you also do dynamic pricing. Tell us a little bit about that and how that works out for you guys.
So as soon as we got the Tagmarshal all installed and we got it, all working effectively, we were actually able to raise our rates a little bit. So, even $4 or $5 a round times, 35,000, that ends up being a lot of money over the course of a year. Next spring, we're going to start doing dynamic pricing, where basically our tee sheet will automatically update pricing throughout the day. So, on a Saturday morning, for example, when we're really busy, it's going to charge a premium to play there once people start booking rounds. Whereas our, Monday or Tuesday afternoon, where we're generally the slowest, it's going to give our base floor rate there to attract people to come in. And it does it all automatically without me really even having to watch it or anything. So really neat stuff.
That sounds brilliant. But obviously, the one thing to consider is if you are dynamically pricing, and players obviously know that, and they're willing to pay a bit more because it's worth it to them from a convenience point of view, from a I want that tea time point of view. But then you also, if it's up 20, 30, 40%, you also have to deliver on the experience, right? Because the expectation goes up alongside. And I feel you guys really have got this down. Let's talk about one other data point here that is really interesting to consider. So this bit of research comes from the University of Wisconsin staff that were doing work for the USGA, and that was presented at the Golf Innovation Symposium. And what their mission was to find out what are the player experience factors that matter. Like we just spoke about it, but obviously there are many, many more. And they realized that there's 1,000 experience factors in a round of golf. And where that sounds a bit crazy, it's any touch point that has to do with the round. And that might be loading your clubs in the boot, or getting greeted at the golf course, or checking in with your with the starter. All of those things are touch points, right? And what the research shows is that some of these rank down the middle, and some of these are delighters and make people extremely happy. So we want to do a lot of those, and some of them are frustrators that make people extremely unhappy, and we want to do as little of those as we can. So what they found is that both the top and the bottom ranked factor are pace of play related. So the bottom one, the worst thing we can do to a player, they're calling corrective pace of play actions, overall worst score. Okay, corrective pace of play actions means, hey guys, you're slow, get on with it, right? That good old martial attitude that is combative. At the same time, other people's speed. So if other people get in my way and I'm feeling like being held up, it's equally as frustrating. And on the flip side, right up there, past conditioning is positive ranger etiquette. So if a ranger is actually polite to me, then I love that, and it makes me happy because it's so unexpected. Ben, I know that a lot of your decision making has actually been anchored on that exact experience, right? And knowing that, and also having looked at what players are rating at your course. So what's tell us a bit about that, and what you then ended up doing in terms of making adjustments.
So one of the things that we noticed, when Eric and I took over, again, just looking at things from a number standpoint, we did things, and one of the things we did was went and looked at our reviews, and we found that most of our negative reviews were due to staff interactions, particularly with rangers. So Eric and I, kind of said, okay, well, what can we do to curb this, or maybe even eliminate the ranger? And that was one of the reasons that actually sold us on Tagmarshal. With our system now, we don't have a ranger anymore, and the system is so much more effective than a old school traditional ranger driving around in circles can ever be.
Thanks. And we want to dig into what that looks like for you in just a minute. Just Joey, from your side, I know you have a lot of conversations with obviously partners and also people that are interested. And one of the things that we normally try and educate on is, how do you actually have these conversations? And also, do we even need to call a role a marshal any longer? Can we not do it better? What are some of the things that you're seeing is working there, Joey?
Yeah, a lot of courses are using the term player assistants now instead of marshals, because the marshal carries such a disdain with it, right? So they're trying to change the terminology and educate their marshals or their player assistants now on how to have these conversations. Obviously, when a lot of the courses now that we partner with, when they go out and have these conversations, they use the data, right? The marshal has the tablet with him. He's able to show them where they're at, and that makes those conversations much, much easier with the clients on the course. So there's, less confrontation. It's just an easier time for these guys, and the golfers, I think, appreciate it, because a lot of them don't know if they're obviously behind pace. They think they're doing fine, or it's always the other guy, as we all know. So yeah, it's made those conversations much easier for all these guys out there.
Yeah, we're going to look at the technology now, but I think the takeaway really is that it's extremely important to players that we pay attention to this, right? And they will have us know if they feel like we're not doing it right. And very often that's a reason for people not to come back or even leave a bad review. And if they do, then that takes a lot of undoing. Yeah, obviously we want to be preemptive as much as we can. But there's just a really like broad range of benefits that if we do it right, that we'll get to reap. So let's look at the next portion of our conversation. How Willow Springs use technology to increase efficiency with a positive impact on the player experience. Ben, tell us just this obviously how it works, Tagmarshal. Just very briefly, which of our system options did you guys decide on? And then we're going to look at what your team actually looks at when it comes to the back end of the system. So what did you go with? And then also maybe explain briefly, who have you got all dialed into this at the moment?
Yeah, so we went with option number 2 that you see on the screen there, 8-inch, basically tablets that are mounted into the cart. We have a handful of walking tags, but we don't use them as far as giving them the walkers, just because it's for our setup. We have the vast majority of our rounds are riding rounds and not walking rounds. So basically, Eric, myself, we can access Tagmarshal anytime from our phone, tablet, computer. I was actually in Europe over the summer, and I was able to log on, from Germany to see, okay, where our carts were. And I actually sent messages to a couple carts all the way from Germany, hey, you're, 8 minutes behind the pace, whatever, to get them sped up. So the technology is just phenomenal. You can use it from anywhere. Eric and I monitor it all day long. Our starter monitors it all day long on a Marshall tablet that's provided when you sign up as well. And it's just been great for us to be able to, oversee this like that. So.
Ben, this is my new favorite story, and I'm going to tell everyone because I'm German born and raised, right? So it's just amazing that over the, whatever it is, 6-hour time zone difference, you're dialing into your operation and you've got a handle on it in real time. That's love that. So just to add to what Ben is saying, so we obviously have the 8-inch. You're going to see some more pictures of that. It's the brightest screen that you can currently get in the market, which is obviously great in an outdoor environment. We also have, because we understand the GPS screen is not for everyone, we also have hidden away trackers that come with a geofence sort of buzzer that you can engage, and they really here to collect data. And then we do have walking tags that's more your classic sort of caddies walking courses, and also an app that goes with that. But what all of these units do is they collect data and give Ben lots of numbers, but data also comes in visuals, right? And that's really where you can think of this as a Waze or Google Maps of what's happening out on your golf course, where in the past, well, all you had was line of sight and a hope and a prayer that your team were on top of things. But very often that doesn't work out. So there's a live map which you're going to look at now, and then there's underlying data that looks at hole by hole run times and how's our day going, and in terms of tee time by tee time, or you can look at it over periods, and you can really set goals and keep improving. So let's jump into what a day at Willow Springs might look like. Yeah, so you said that your starters and yourself and Eric are dialed into this. Then when do you make a decision to go out or to go and engage via the system, and what do the colors tell you about what's going on out there?
So the different colors tell you, what they're actually doing. So green obviously means that they're on pace. The red, like you see number 13, that means that they're just a little bit behind, but they're usually being held up by somebody else. And then you have the purple that means that they are the offending group that is holding everybody up. So, you can see that number 17 is bigger than number 6. And that basically just means that they're even more of a problem than number 6 is. So when I look at the map and I see a color like number 17 on there that's big and purple, that's somebody that I'm going to go look at, and see how far behind they are. Now, the marshal doesn't discriminate. Sometimes they can be 1 minute behind the pace and it'll still show that. So, you don't necessarily always need to go address it. But, in this case, their round estimate would be 4:31, which would be about 40 minutes behind our scheduled pace. So we would definitely address that, and get them sped up. So.
Let me just maybe add here. So some of the things that our system obviously calculates is how bad is the problem, right? Because one of the things that we want to see is how big is the tail, like how many players are being impacted right now, because that clearly is impacting players negatively, and we want to pay attention to that. And then also how early on in the round is this group falling out of position. Did you note that I said out of position here, which is a reframe, right? We're not telling them they're slow. We want to try and eliminate that from our vocabulary, but like they're out of position. How early on in the round, and this is exactly where things then get bad, because their trend here is negative. The first 2 holes they were playing fine, and then they started to drop off, and clearly they're not recovering. So if that continues, they can really wreck the rest of your day in terms of groups behind. And then very quickly you have 3 or 4 players impacting 20, and that really hurts. And then same might happen elsewhere on the course. So it's just really helpful to be able to monitor that and jump on top of things. So another thing that we're showing is obviously your player assistant vehicle, or we can also show your superintendent vehicles or your drinks cart, that sort of thing. Joey, if I can just jump back to you here, you've obviously seen quite a few nice use cases around this. What have you seen works here in terms of dialing in the drinks carts, for instance, dialing in the halfway house with this line of sight, and maybe also dialing in the superintendents?
Yeah, obviously, the superintendents, we have the heat map module, which can show them where the course is becoming impacted before it becomes a real problem for them. So a lot of these guys, I've talked to a lot of superintendents, they really appreciate that piece of it, because they can't obviously predict it very well. So now they have technology to help them run and assist with that. For the beverage carts, I think one of the best case scenarios that I saw was one of our partners out in Seattle. They were using their bev cart while they got their positioning back into check, and they would send the bev cart out to the points that were clogged while they were working through it. So I thought that was pretty brilliant, and they would just give the guys a Coke or something like that just to calm things down while they work through the issue. And obviously since then they've got it under control very quickly. But we found too that the guys, when they're putting this on their bev carts, they're actually see the paths that their bev carts are taking. If they're stopping, they're sitting under a tree, not really out kind of, circling the course and interacting with the players much. So it's allowed them to give them full line of sight to that as well. And also on the superintendent side, we can obviously put these into anything with a power source. So we can put them into mowers. So not only can they track their assets, they can track where they're going out on the course, so they can monitor their mowing patterns and such. So they've never had that piece of technology to kind of deal with. They always have things that tell them like number of hours the engine runs, but they can't really tell where their equipment's going to, where it's been.
Yeah, and also obviously if there's viable gaps in the field, or maybe the first round out's not as far ahead as we thought, the team can get more done, right? Those are all some of the sort of line of sight benefits. I want to keep us on track here with regards to our big mission is to find out, well, how have you reduced labor hours and how have you made more money? That's the titles. I want to keep steering back towards that. But I promised you that we would show what a live system map looks like that the player's looking at, just as the GPS side. Ben, how's that working from an efficiency point of view? And obviously the players have got the awareness of what's happening with regards to their pace status. How have you found that? And also, has there been, how long has it taken for there to be any sort of impact within your operation?
So, as far as the player type of thing, it really helps speed things up because you eliminate the use, of range finders and stuff like that on days, especially when we have cart path only. If they're sitting on the cart path, in this case, say to the left of where their number 7 is on that path, they can just hit where their ball is and it will triangulate a distance, right to the pin. So that way they don't have to take, 4 clubs out and range find it and then say, oh, well, I don't have the right club and walk back to the cart. That's all stuff that speeds up significantly. And what we found is just having the pace on there, like in this case, they're 5 minutes ahead of pace. But what we found is just having it where it says, oh, you're 1, 2, 3 minutes behind the pace. Nobody wants to see that. So oftentimes people, they just speed up on their own without us actually having to say anything just because they see it on the screen. As far as impact, we had an immediate impact. So, the day after we had our stuff installed, literally we had the screens in 1 full day. We had an out income that the year before, we were kind of dreading it coming back because they were poor players. It took 5 hours for them to get through this course, even playing a scramble. And when they left, they really didn't have fun, and they didn't really stay and buy any, food and beverage or whatever. So it wasn't great for us. The first day we had Tagmarshal, the worst group in the whole thing played in 4 hours and 5 minutes. Most of them played in closer to 3.5 hours. And it was just the GPS and stuff that made it that much quicker for them. So, we had significant immediate impact, legitimately right after it was installed. So
that's a brilliant outcome, Joey. I know you were right there and probably looking over Ben and Eric's shoulder at the live map.
Yeah, we were kind of watching this thing unfold, and while I happened to be there, and when it was all said and done that evening, Ben was kind of calculating what had happened during the day, and he goes, "Ben, we did $2,500 at the bar alone," and that was in like an hour or so. Ben, I think it was about an hour roughly.
Yeah, not much more.
People were laughing, they were carrying on, they had a great time, and the guy who organizes the event for them actually rebooked right then and there, immediately. They didn't wait. They said, "We're doing it. We had so much fun. We're doing this again next year. We're in." So it's great to see a group of golfers come out and have a good time with it, and not be fretting about that. Oh, I'm being tracked. It's more, okay, this is where I'm at. This is how I'm performing type of deal. And they all got in, and it seemed like everybody was having a great time. I was listening to some of the conversations, and they really enjoyed the event.
That's brilliant. And I've skipped past the T-sheets integrations that we have, but obviously there's also Golf Genius with live scoring and that. So Ben, when you run the event next year, you can dial into that and you can go one better, and they can even have live scoring and at the replay. One of the things obviously that's always a topic is how can we make sure that our players are reasonably compliant when it comes to we don't go where we don't want it to go, and Tagmarshal obviously does its bit here when it comes to geofencing. How's that worked out for you guys? Once you got things going.
So this was kind of one of our biggest reluctance thing, not so much on our end, but, our superintendent was worried about it and stuff, about, is this really going to be effective, rather than, the traditional ranger actually driving around and physically seeing somebody do, go somewhere that they shouldn't. And, we found that it works phenomenally great. So, basically you can draw geofence lines on holes. You can set different days. So like, if it's cart path only, you uncheck a bubble that makes it cart path only lines. Or you can have just regular cart rules on a normal day. And basically, as soon as that cart goes into the area, it makes this ridiculously annoying buzzing and beeping sound. And you can just watch them. They leave the area right away. So for us, we really liked that it doesn't shut the cart down and stuff like that. I know a lot of the competitors have it where they turn the cart off and whatever. And for me personally, that's annoying when you go out and play and it shuts your cart down and stuff. So I think that this is a much more effective way of doing it, and we've had really good success with people following the cart rules.
Yeah, that's great to hear, Bennett. The sound is basically like a truck reversing, right? So that beep, 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 and it's hard to ignore it, so people don't. But what you're saying is exactly the research that we've done, because obviously, ultimately, we're all here to serve the golfers. And as much as we think, hey, wouldn't it be amazing if we can remote control the cart and just shut it off while we're serving the golfers, and the golfers really don't like it. It's one of the things that's super frustrating. And also, it's not actually helpful when it comes to managing pace of play. Joey, I know that that's happened to you a few times, and you've also obviously been on enough golf tours. What's the player experience like around that, and what are some of the things that you've seen or been told?
Yeah, it's as far as shutting the carts down, I know, we as golfers, we don't typically like that. I'm right in there with Ben. We're smart enough to understand if we get into an area, we need to get out of it. We don't need the cart shutting down on us. But it's funny because I played in a tournament last year with a competitor representative, we'll call it, and they shut the carts down, and he actually called to the clubhouse and asked them to turn it off because he was so frustrated, and it's a product he represents. I thought that was pretty hilarious. But you can see even the guys who represent that type of product don't necessarily like it, which with ours, like Ben was saying, you can see, I don't know if you mentioned it, you can see it on the screen, right? If you're in a geofence area, you can obviously correlate, hey, my cart is actually inside of this colored area, right? I need to get out of it. So see yourself position out of it. So I think that's one of the things that helps golfers and keeps them from getting frustrated, because obviously golf can be a frustrating enough game as it is.
Some of the other ones that I've seen, they don't even show you lines. So you draw into an area, you drive into an area, and you didn't know, and then you get in there. I think our ultimate goal is to keep the pace of play up. And when the cart shuts off and now you have to go and reverse it, 2 miles an hour until you get back to the cart path. I've seen situations where that takes 5 minutes to get out of that area. So to me, it's counterproductive to what our ultimate goal actually is. So.
Yeah, and look, I get it, especially from a superintendent's point of view. They might say, well, I got to protect my turf here. And that's exactly to the point that you made. Like, is it effective? Yes, so let's rather do it in a way that's friendlier to the golfers, so that we don't detract from the experience. And if it fulfills the need, which is, can we keep people aligned and keep them out of offensive areas, then we've ticked both boxes. And maybe on that note, so one of the things that the system obviously does, it tracks a lot of data, and it basically retains a history of every round that was played. We call that a track map. And what is on there is basically the pace status across every hole, so you can go look back at it. And there's also interactions or messages that were sent out to the group. And if there was a geofence breach like this one, 12th hole at 8:57, off from that tee time that started at 3:43, then we know, like, we've got a history and a stamp almost of it. So if we ever needed to have a conversation, if somebody's not compliant, we can do that. Is that something that that you use every now and then? And what's is that helpful to you guys?
Yeah, so it's extremely helpful when you do have to go have a conversation with somebody about their pace. So, you know, our general thing is if somebody's behind, we'll just send them a quick message on the right on their screen where it's going to show them, you know, hey, you're however many minutes, just asking you to keep up with the group in front of you. From time to time, that doesn't work, and you know they get further and further behind, and we actually have to, you know, go talk to them. Eric and I try to do that so that, you know, it's a management end and not just sending somebody out. And when you are able to take an iPad or, you know, your phone or a Marshall tablet or whatever I take out at that time and actually pull their round up and show them, you know, look, it's not just me subjectively calling you out. The data shows that you're really behind, you've been behind, and you're getting worse. You know, they might not like to hear that, but what are they really going to say? You know, it's not me making it up. It's not me driving around with a ranger flag and saying, well, I'm just going to out to get you today. It's legitimate data showing them that, you know, they're a problem. Another case where we actually used it once, and I thought about this the other day, actually. We had a group one time that we had a call in that they actually drove a cart on one of our greens. And I was able to go back and look at the track map, and sure enough, it showed that their cart went right over the green in between that, and we actually saw their tire marks. You know, we you know, asked them to leave at that point. But you know, that's real data that we can use to show that, you know, it's not just us saying, well, you know, it's your word against somebody else's. So it's really neat.
That's great. And remember, the goal for us is always, well, how can we help you save labor hours and be more efficient? And then the next point, obviously, how can we help you make more money? And I think that is our next talking point. How has technology helped you save, generate additional revenue, and adopt advanced strategies? Obviously, you've only in season 1, right? We have to walk before we can run, but I know that you're excited about dialing in further. So tell us a bit about the sort of savings / revenue impact that you've seen.
So, I mean, the first thing you have listed there is us cutting the Ranger. So, you know, we've had this system for roughly 6 months, maybe just over. And just by not having that extra outside person, you know, who acts as the Ranger, we've already saved almost what the system costs us. So, you know, basically, if we got no additional benefit out of it, we'd be doing well. But we've gotten so many benefits out of it. So, you know, we talked about earlier that we're charging more and have to be confident that we can, you know, produce what we're charging for. And the Tagmarshal has given us that confidence. You know, when people come to play, I'm confident that we can get them through an on-pace round now based on the data that we've seen. You know, whereas without this, we just wouldn't have that confidence to be able to do this. The advertisements have been great on it. So you can do custom advertisements, you know, when somebody hits the clubhouse after 9 holes, or they hit a certain tee box or whatever it may be. So in you know, our case, we actually put some lesson ads like on the 18th hole. So when they hit like when they get right off the green, it hits their cart with an ad, and we've actually got calls in, you know, for people saying, you know, hey, I just played a poor round and I'd really like to sign up for lessons. So you know, that's great. And to that point, you know, next year, Based on what we've seen so far, we're expecting at least 10 times more than what we pay for the system a year. And to be truthful, we haven't even used everything that we can do on it yet. So, we haven't even started using the food and beverage ordering on it. We're going to start doing that in the spring. So there's so much more that we can do with it that we haven't even done yet. And we're still getting these phenomenal results. So I can only imagine once we, take full advantage of the system next year or so.
I think obviously much like you're a numbers guy, I'm a data guy, right? So for me, things really get interesting once you're going into year 2 and you have sort of comparative data as well. But Joey, from your experience, and obviously you've also had quite a few conversations with Ben and Eric and also other clubs that are similar. What are some of the things that that are takeaways for you from a revenue gains or savings point of view that maybe Eric hasn't mentioned?
Yeah, I think, like Ben was mentioning, I think the food and beverage is obviously a big opportunity for them. They're the way they're positioned. Not even having used it this year, that's going to be a huge game changer for them once they implement. And then obviously, his ability to raise rates based on, just simply even having a GPS, because that does bring, as a golfer, when you go to a golf course and you step into a golf cart and it has a GPS, it just has a whole different expectation for you, right, as a golfer. So I think that is 2 big things that we obviously he's generating some revenue already off of just having the GPS in the system, but there's a lot of things on the back end that he can delve into now that we might even be able to search and find some extra tee times in there for Ben once we get down to the nitty gritty. But now we've got some good data from him for this past season. And I'm confident that he's probably got at least 1 additional tee time in there that he can plug in daily now that, he's really got his rounds dialed in very well.
Yeah, we're gonna look at that and what the data actually tells in terms of the story. And Ben, you must apologize. I called you Eric because I've said Ben and Eric now 5 times. Eric is gonna laugh at this. So you guys have done super well, and like I said earlier, it's a shorter course, and I think the top end in terms of goal times that some of our customers are driving is 4 hours 57 minutes, which is 5 hours, and that golf course is Erin Hills, which is a walking course. It's the beast of a course. It's super long and tough to play, and it'll be the happiest 5 hours you can play. Joey, have you played it, Erin?
I got the great opportunity to play there twice.
There you go. But obviously your course being short, it's a completely different value proposition, but you're doing it so well. And here, this is data that's from your month of August, and you are flying through. Like, your average round time for the whole month is 3 hours 16 minutes, and you've got almost 5,000 players out here. And just a comparative, and you mentioned that like the slowest round on your first day of the system in action was just over 4 hours. And actually in June, they were still, like, as you're dialing in, there were still a few days where you were around the 4 hour mark, but now August, and that's just so just a few months later, you're really coming through so quickly. And I think what Joe is referring to, if your goal time is 3:35 and you're playing in 3:16, there is opportunity already, right, to look at is there more capacity that we can get, and it's all incremental. Where can we tweak? How can we do better? So one of the things to look at here down in the bottom left is the hole by hole runtime, and it seems like you're pretty neatly dialed in here. There's only a few holes that go slightly over, and you can obviously look at that, and over time also look at what are some of the things that we can adjust. This is really good and a neat day at the office. So it's actually a whole month and not a single day went over. So my question to you is, firstly, how do you dig into this? I know it's been early days in terms of understanding your performance? And also, do you feel it's something that you can actually start advertising as a competitive advantage?
Yeah, so I think, when we can show this to people and say, look, we care about your pace. This is our pace. I think it's a big selling point. When you come into our clubhouse, I keep the live track map up on the TV at all times. So when they're checking in, they can actually, the guests can actually see, okay, the current pace is, whatever it may be. There's this many people out on the course, et cetera. People really like that. So, but, to the overall point, the numbers just show right there that when we started with it, we were 4 hours plus. When I was still, when starters were still doing, paper turn sheets and stuff, our data showed that we were over 4 hour rounds pretty consistently. So, now that we're on average down under 330, I mean, it just shows that the system is doing what it's supposed to do. And we have been able to, add extra times and stuff throughout the day, and maybe even, think about in the future, shortening our tee time intervals too, to get even a couple more rounds. So the data is phenomenal. We do look at it. And as a matter of fact, I'm actually doing a deep dive with Peter in it, Peter on when he gets back from vacation. So.
That's great. So Peter is one of our customer success heroes that works with managers like Ben. He also obviously is a former PGA pro and really understands the business, and he's super excited about being able to share these opportunities to do better. But there's two things that I'd like to show, just what the data says, and that's, I think, is what Ben is saying. So we've got a breakdown of how does every day run at Willow Springs, and you can see Wednesday is your quickest day, Saturday is your slowest day. So you might say, well, anecdotally we knew that, but already that gives you an idea of how do we allocate resources, and how does it help us pay more attention where it matters and not waste our attention where it doesn't matter. And the other thing that you mentioned is, how can we maybe tighten some intervals? Well, if you're starting your day at 3:01 and your 7 to 8 tee times is 3:12, there's your opportunity, right? Because these guys are moving so quickly, and it's not just the first group out, it's literally the first 2 hours of tee times. Then you can test that out and obviously run a tighter interval to hopefully free up an additional tee time. And if you can, that's obviously prime real estate on your tee sheet when it comes to dynamic pricing. And then also later in the day, things are really speeding up again. So you can, what a lot of our partners do, and Joey, you've seen this many times, is like they actually start advertising fast lane golf rounds, right? Because they know we can get those people through here. And if you advertise it, actually people say, yes, if I can play a whole round, a whole 18 here in 4 hours or in 3:30 or whatever the time is, then I can say yes to it. If there's a chance of it going to 5, no way, don't have the time. Last point here to raise that in a few short months, your team has done 5,158 engagements with the system, and that speaks to how switched on and dialed in you guys are. And that is, what are we in now, 5 months? So it's over 1,000 a month. And it really just takes a few seconds, or when you get an alert, to check in and see what's going on. And that's already, just such a short period. You've gotten one of our awards. So you're a gold partner now, and your mission for next year is to level up to platinum, and then hopefully year 3 diamond. So how we do that is we benchmark the industry, and obviously having over 500 partners, we really know what's what and who's good and who's not. And it takes quite a lot of doing to really break into that. So well done to the team doing this in season 1 already. And you're in fantastic company as you then go up the ranks, which we have no doubt that you will. So this is really good going. And the one thing I want to point out is that even with this really successful results that you've achieved, if we're looking at the data, and we don't want to hide from the truth too, right? You see that 4.9% of groups are delayers, and they have an impact on 21% of the groups. And this is like a really strong picture because most of your groups are just going through no issues. But you can see that just a few groups, if they're not managed, have such an impact on so many others. And it really does, going back to the point we raised earlier, 74% of players saying it's key to us. And a lot of them would have been stuck in this, right? Stuck behind slow groups and nothing happened. And they try to find the clubhouse. And eventually Marshall comes and says to them, hey guys, you're slow. And they go, it's not us, it's guys in front of us. You have this whole running in circles that doesn't get you anywhere. So yeah, it's great to see that you've done so well. And it's like Joey says, it's only the beginning. Let's jump at the last point. And I just got a prompt from our pace manager here that that we've got just a few minutes left. What has the response been from the players and from your team?
So, the players have loved it. When we first brought this stuff in, I think, you have employees that have been doing this a while and they're used to doing things a certain way. And, we had some reluctance, particularly with starters and things of that sort. But, it's been great since we've had it. Even some of our most reluctant starters have really enjoyed having it. And once they see how beneficial and how really user-friendly it actually is to use, I think most everybody is very happy to have it. The players love it. Obviously it keeps their speed up, and they love the GPS function of it too. So it's been, we've had nothing really but positive reviews about it. So.
Yeah, thanks for sharing so freely. One of the last questions, I guess, to look at is, now that you've started to walk with the program, what are some of the things that you think you're going to dial in for next season? And obviously, you guys don't really stop, you keep going, but there will be more golf, obviously, once the weather warms up again. And then I'm sure you've got plans for the operation. I know now this winter you're really going to dial into your indoor setup, but when it comes to Tagmarshal and working with the system, what you're going to do outside next year, what are some of the things that you're looking to do?
So, we're definitely going to start using the food and beverage stuff. So basically, they're able to order something right on the tablet. It'll send it to another tablet in our kitchen. And when they make the turn, it'll already be ready for them. So, even if you save 5-6 minutes on them, having hot dogs or whatever it may be, that's a significant time saver in the overall picture of things. We have Golf Genius we're starting with in the spring. So our leagues and outings will start taking advantage of the live scoring functions on it. And then, we're going to do a deep dive on this data, as I said, in a few weeks. And, we're going to try to probably squeeze some extra tee times in starting next year, especially to maximize the revenue of this thing. So.
That's brilliant. You're ticking all the boxes. And yeah, I'm very excited that, that you're really going to take full advantage of the opportunity. And we're at the end of our round here, gents. Thank you so much. And just if there are any questions from the people listening in, and thank you, Ben. It's been really insightful. If there are any questions, feel free to post them. Also, if you're part of the Middle Atlantic section and you would like PDR credits, which you can have now because we've done an hour, please post your PGA number in the chat. You can do private chat if you want. Maybe any parting thoughts here, Ben, from your side, or Joey? Anything to consider or take away? There's everyone's still on here, so there's no questions, so we might as well.
So I'll tell you just my overall experience. We looked into this and signed up for it very quickly. It didn't take us long to see the benefits of it. I would never attempt to manage a golf course without having this system again. It just makes things so much easier, so much more effective. It's just phenomenal. And one of my favorite things with Tagmarshal is, and I say this genuinely, is just how good the people are. Joey came out and installed our screens and everything, and we've legitimately become personal friends now. Through this kind of business transaction, to the point where we're gonna meet up sometime this winter and play some golf together. So really genuinely good people that have your best interest in mind. When I need something, I call Joey's cell phone, I call Peter's cell phone. They pick right up, and everything's dealt with very quickly. And they're really great people and a great company to work with, genuinely.
Thank you, Ben. We appreciate that.
Too kind.
That means that means I got to come up and remove your starter shack for free, then, doesn't it? Ben and I have a running joke. We're going to drag his starter shack. We debated on burning it down or repurposing it into a boathouse and put it in the middle of his pond down there next to hole 1.
Nice one. Okay, gents, thank you so much. We don't want to take up any more time. We've done a fantastic hour. Really appreciate it. Ben, I love the story that you managed the course from a different continent. That's the best one I've heard, honestly, and obviously in my home country at that. So I'm going to take that away from the session.
I won't even charge you for that.
Nice. Yeah, please do come and see us at the PGA show, and if you can make it, and we'll go grab a drink and have a chat, and then hopefully there's quite a few golf things happening down there. You can go play around with Joey or one of our other guys.
I'm definitely coming down to hang out with you guys.
Amazing. All right, gents, Ben, thank you so much, and Joey, thanks for dialing in. I know you're busy up in cold Canada. It was an absolute pleasure and really, really enjoyable. And we will see you down in Orlando. Okay.
Cheers, everyone.